Was ist Desinformation? Darüber diskutierten Wissenschaftlerinnen, Journalistinnen und Politaktivistinnen aus Mittelosteuropa in Tutzing.
My name is Dimitri Teperik and I come from Estonia, where I work as Chief Executive of the International Center for Defense and Security. It's a think tank which do a lot of research on security, resilience and defense related topics. And since 2016 I also lead a development cooperation program entitled Resilient Ukraine, which is actually our research program focusing on various characteristics of resilience, including disinformation but other parameters of resilience as well. Recently we have been seeing not so many kind of active cases of disinformation in Estonia, except of course COVID-19 related disinformation, which was mostly within Estonia. So basically we are talking about so-called domestic disinformation and mostly shared by those people who don't trust doctors, who don't trust vaccines and who are basically scared about this new challenge of coronavirus. And of course also those people, or at least majority of them, they are believers in different conspiracy theories. But speaking about kind of hostile disinformation, external disinformation projected mostly by the Kremlin onto Estonia, so recently we haven't seen so many cases. Which doesn't mean that we are not on the Kremlin's radar. So all the Baltic states, and including Estonia, we are there, and they kind of monitor the situation and inject into our information sphere and media landscape case by case some disinformation cases occasionally, because the regime in the Kremlin is very opportunistic. They might use different tools from this toolbox in order to project disinformation. And speaking about Estonia, of course, there are some kind of big narratives which the Kremlin uses continuously. One of them is related to the history, basically everything which is related to the Second World War, basically trying to redesign the national memory of our country. Another narrative would be, I could say, is our dependency on the Western partners. So everything blaming basically the European Union and the United States of America to be our masters, and that our country is not truly independent and everything is decided either in Brussels or in Washington. And the third narrative which the Kremlin uses very often is also our insufficiency in terms of social economical parameters, basically saying that we are doing very poorly economically and the demographics are very bad and so on and so forth. I mentioned already the trust, and actually so trust is something we are working on and continuously trying to improve the trust within the society between different groups, the trust of audiences towards the media. And I'm very glad that during the last year, for instance, the audience trust towards the national broadcaster in Estonia increased, because they showed actually very high quality of reporting during the corona crisis about different regulations, measures and limitations. And another component of trust, of course, trust in our democracy and electoral processes and democratic institutions. That's something which is, of course, very long-term oriented action, but it works. So if we increase in our trust, as I said, within different groups, trust towards media and trust in governmental institutions, that's something which immunize us against the Kremlin propaganda. And for that, of course, we need very transparent and effective communication. And that is always our advice to the spokesperson within the government, to the experts, and to basically all public figures who communicate with the public, and also to the media, that the communication should be, of course, two-way communication, not just informing the public, but also listening to the feedback. And the communication also must be transparent, that the audience should be able to understand the decision-making process. So how the decisions are being shaped, prepared, and then made, and also explained why one or another decision is being taken. So that kind of transparency is needed. And the third component is, of course, effectiveness of communication. So basically, not just saying something in the sake of saying, but to have a goal. What communication should reach? Should we basically appeal to someone to change his or her behavior, or should we inform the audiences about doing or not doing something? So basically, measuring the effectiveness of the communication is also kind of action which helps us to build that trust. Yeah, civil society is an important player in that. Civil society should be always involved in crisis management. There's no single crisis could be managed or resolved without actual involvement of stakeholders from a triangle, as government, civil society, and private sector. So everything should be done with this triangle, that the government communicates with the civil society and business sector, and vice versa. So it's kind of golden triangle of crisis preparedness and crisis management. So knowing the situation at local and regional level, because sometimes the governments tend to generalize and to see the picture on the national level, but many problems can be solved also on a local or regional level. And that's also the role of civil society, and together with the media, to draw attention to the problems and then to the solutions on different levels.
Thank you.
Well, I'm a true believer in practical approach. I do understand the value of conceptualization. I do understand the value of academic knowledge, and of course my team also does research, and we do study different aspects of disinformation. But I think what we need to do is not just to study and talk, but also to act practically. And that's how resilience is being built. So then you plan your actions, and then you basically act accordingly. I think we should be working more and more with younger generations, not just teaching them on this, media literacy stuff, but also trying them to become more literate on various aspects of this information, and being prepared in terms of skills and knowledge.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.